Hey everybody, I'm Matt Hill. I'm in Oklahoma City, and I'm just going to get started with introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Matt. My name is Curtis Shuck, and I'm the chairman of the Well Done Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit.
Well, I'm so glad you're here in Oklahoma City. What were you up here for?
We were here attending.
Or down here for you?
Yeah, down here for, well, for me, I came up from our office in New Mexico, so it was up. No, we're here participating in and sponsoring the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, their first conference on orphaned, idled, and abandoned oil and gas wells. And it was a great opportunity to see regulators in the room, some operators in the room, some interested parties, some professionals. It all really is part of this Jobs Act and the Infrastructure Act, which was, as you know, a bipartisan effort between Kevin Cramer from North Dakota and Senator Ben Ray Lujan from New Mexico. So it was a great opportunity to get together, and we were honored to be able to be the platinum sponsor and help with the kickoff of the conference.
Well, thanks for the hat. I'm going to be sporting it.
Go.
He knew my flavor, camo, so I'll be seeing this around. You guys asked me about Well Done, and I'll just point you to this guy.
Yeah.
You said something in our little conversation before about you've grown, and now there might be some people are putting a target on your back, either within our own industry or outside of it. Mm-hmm. You brought up a good point that bipartisan, you reach across the aisle, but we have some very prolific problems in our petroleum industry that we all know and we all are the most capable to solve, which is orphan wells or zombie wells that are out there now, the flaring, mm-hmm. and the problems with maybe the contamination of our ground and our groundwater, and or just water in general, getting water to the source. So we have all these things that we know are wasteful, and we now have people within our industry that can go out and solve them with really amazing solutions. So where'd you grow up?
Well, so my background in oil and gas is I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. So moved up there in 1970, and it was a Beverly Hillbillies show. Mom and Dad threw everybody in the old International, six-pack and the crew cab and the trailer, and away we went to Alaska, the dogs and the cats, and off we went. And this was pre-pipeline days. The North Slope was just starting to get going. And as we got up to Alaska, it reminded me, just recently of my first trip back to the Bakken in 2012. But in Alaska, my first hitch in the oil field was the summer of 1982. And, and I've been fortunate to be involved in oil and gas in various and sundry elements of it, whether it's supply chain, spent a long time, obviously, in the supply chain side with the ports in the state of Washington. And then to actually, running Red River Oilfield Services in Williston, North Dakota, to consulting. And, I'm sitting here with you today 100% by accident. I mean, I guarantee it. My first interaction with an orphan well was in 2019, long before orphan wells were sexy. In fact, they were everybody's dirty little secret.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about it.
Nobody wanted to talk about it. The regulators wanted nothing to do with it. The operators, for sure, wanted nothing to do with it. And I was faced sort of with this inflection point, that career-defining moment for me, which was, I really can't unsee what I just saw, and I really felt compelled that I needed to do something, but I had no idea what. I just felt that I needed to do something, and so that was July 25th of 2019. We'll never forget that day, because when I drove from Shelby back to Bozeman that night, I got in about 2 in the morning. I was, driving 85 miles an hour like you do in Montana. And I was looking up, orphan wells, and so that's where the name Well Done came. We were securing domain names and actually registering the business.
Yep.
So by the time I got back to Bozeman, this was already a path. But I had no idea that, I would be sitting here with you today, 3+ years later. And now this is consuming all of our waking moments. We just plugged our 25th well, just starting on our 26th.
Wow, that's gone quick.
Yes, and obviously big plans for 2023, and have really focused in addition to that well plugging work, but also on the quantification of emissions, because that really goes hand in hand with our ability to tell the story, right? So absolutely the issues of groundwater are key, but then also with this new focus on methane and what those emission impacts are, our ability to scientifically quantify those. And so we've been doing a lot of work in that space. And that's kind of what brings us here today, and to this meeting with the geologists there at the university, Oklahoma University, OU. So.
Well, it's also a good time to be in Oklahoma City right now with the state capitol, being extra busy, and all all of our public elected people here to go talk to and see, like, hey, we're here in town. We have ideas, we have technology, we have engineering. We can go out and look around your state and see how we could help you.
You bet.
We have the OERB that goes out and helps with plugging and abandoning and cleanup. So we have so many resources here because we're really a tight-knit oil and gas community. So coming up here more often, we'd love to have you.
Well, I appreciate that, and yes, absolutely. Oklahoma is a focus area for us. I want to say it's number 2 or 3 on the list of the number of sort of that documented orphan wells piece, and there's obviously a huge discrepancy between documented and undocumented, and it's kind of sparking this whole new industry, which is exciting because it means that problems are getting fixed. And you brought up a good point earlier. It really is a black eye on our industry.
Yep.
And when we started the Well Done Foundation, it was not as some radical environmental group that's looking to throw shade and fling poo. For us, it's
a protective thing you're doing for us. Like, hey, let them go drill wells. If something horrible is to go wrong, or if it went wrong in the past, we've got a solution.
100%, and it's all about process improvement, right?
Yep.
So the best practices around the turn of the century are certainly different than the best practices today. And so what we're working on doing is, without casting blame, is we're out there to just simply fix the problems.
Yep.
And I think it's been a really great platform for us to work both sides of the aisles, to work kind of across the environmental group, the community group, and the industry group, and show that, look, solutions are possible if we just work together.
And if we can get government money back from the people who took it from us, and throw some back at our industry, right? I mean, if they're going to build highways to nowhere and bridges to nowhere and do studies on some kind of environment that I don't really need in my life, like, man, it'd be nice to have some of that recruitment money that they just came in and took. So give it back to us, and we'll go make sure the energy is possible. What when you were talking about quantifying, what do you think the numbers are? So say at the government level, what are they saying as far as how many wells do they view as an abandoned well versus what our industry kind of sees?
Well, they're starting to really get their hands around that right now. There's the big part of the big discussion even at this conference was just kind of landing on some common nomenclature, right? Because every state
in the language
has a little different definition of what an orphan well is, or what an idle well or a shut-in well is. And so I think standardizing that is going to be really important so that everybody is truly on the same page. And then it's a matter of getting out there and starting to work off of some of the state inventory that's been publicly presented. Now, go back to a comment that I made earlier, which is this has been everybody's dirty little secret. And so by that, some of the things that have happened in the past is that various states maybe have left wells that were probably technically orphaned, but have left them on an operator's books, even though maybe the operator was long gone and hasn't existed for decades. But they left them on those books so that it didn't reflect as an orphan. It still showed as an idle well. And I can give you examples across the country where you walk into a field and you've got a combination of orphan and shut-in wells and you couldn't tell me what the difference between the two was, right? I walk into some fields, again, all of the surface equipment has been removed, rods, tubing, pump jacks, everything gone.
No royalty owners getting a check cut.
No, the only thing there is a casing, and maybe somebody has placed a rock on top of it. We sometimes call that a Montana plug-in job. But
It's not funny.
but it's not just Montana, by the way. I want to make sure that that's our home state, and we love working with the Montana Board of Oil and Gas. They were the first ones to entertain us, and God bless Jim Alverson. When I walked into he actually came to our place up in Shelby, Montana, and he had no idea what to expect. It's like, who are these people? What do they want? But what we did is we just went out and started plugging wells. It's like, let's not talk about it. Let's do stuff. And that's really been, I think, at the core of our foundation's mission, is taking action. There's a lot of people that like to talk and analyze, but for me,
hey, they're needed as well. But
100%.
Send it on down the road to a guy that will take action.
Yeah, but we felt that in order to prove the science, we needed to do the work. And so, like I said, we're 25 wells deep now, and we're rocking and rolling on our next tranche of wells. We're super excited about where that is. Working on this quantification piece now is becoming more and more important. And
because that'll speed up the whole process. I mean, do you think that most of your time on each well is more the paperwork side of it, obviously, than the operations, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, the part that everybody loves to see is when the workover rig shows up on location and the roughnecks are out there doing their thing, and we got tubing moving around and cement and all that activity. Well, the reality is that is fun, and for sure. But for the 8 months prior to that, we've been on that well from beginning, day one, working with the landowner, working with the regulatory agency, taking care of all of the legal paperwork, doing the measuring and monitoring over this extended period of time, from the subtropic to the subarctic conditions, to be able to get us to that moment when the rig shows up and we're able to rig up and go to work. So.
Well, I know for myself, and we talk about this a lot. I mean, we all hope that there's no orphan and abandoned wells. I love please follow him on social media. They ask some of those tough questions of themselves, like we all do to grow. Like, how do I break my machine in my head and at least back myself up and cement my morals, ethics, and progress? So one of the things I saw you use, like, well, you're just we could be using all these wells instead of plugging them, but that's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a great idea, and it's not that it can't ever happen, but it certainly doesn't seem to be the majority of the wells. Now, there are some certainly that could be repurposed, and we're actually starting to work on a project right now down in the Permian where
you could pivot and go, hey guys, I found out through because you're doing the science.
Yep.
So if you know that, hey, by the way, we could get this well back online for some small operator, and they could be, in the black.
Yeah, or safely produce good, drinking or irrigation water, then so much the better. And so we love to see that as well. So again, it's not a one size fits all.
Yep.
But that also works to, in terms of the orphan well, that not all orphan wells can even be repurposed based on their age, based on their condition. Oftentimes, the surface owner is like over it. Okay. And wants nothing more to do with it, and so anyway, it's an interesting opportunity out there. So we've really diversified in our mission is still the same: identifying orphan wells, quantifying the methane, and plugging the well and restoring the surface. Right, like it was never even there. And I think the message is really
probably better than before sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we think that that is a repeatable program. We are working with groups all over the country right now. Right now, we're active in 14 states, and we're standing up, if you would, this ecosystem of partners that we're supporting with equipment or helping on the funding side to get the more wells into our universe and then be able to qualify them, because not every well is going to fit within our particular box. We tend to most recently, I think, really gravitate towards those projects that are a little more hair-raising, a little bit more difficult, maybe a little bit more higher profile. like the trailer park well that we just plugged, or the well that we plugged in Cleveland, Ohio, in the middle of the senior citizens facility. Things like that other people probably don't want much to do with. But, for us, that really, I think, is at the core of the mission, because it's not only about what, the benefit to the environment, but it's about the benefit to the community.
Human flourishing, that's what our industry does.
You bet. And the ability then to support the industry through that. Because, our model is always to work with local contractors, to bring in those professionals in an area that have the experience, that have the contacts. And that's been just an amazing model for us. And it's really helped us to develop some awesome relationships, some great friendships across the country in the industry. And like we're getting ready, we're going to be at the Ohio Oil and Gas Association annual meeting in Columbus in a couple of weeks. And, these are folks that we work with out there every day. And it's great to get, the Well Done Foundation, kind of rubbing elbows in that area. We haven't, for us, this is a real focus in 2023, is to be, if we're going to be an industry leader,
be at everything,
then we need to be a leader, right? We got to commit and be out there. And so, you'll probably be seeing more of me and more of our team members in these more sort of public events.
Are you excited about any technology that's helping you, find these wells?
Yeah, so there is a lot happening in the tech space right now, from using satellite imagery to identify some emission locations, the ability to use things like right out of Montana, folks like Bridger Photonics then to give a little bit more detail, or some of the drone-based applications to help kind of identify these particular areas. What we've really focused on, and I think the niche for Well Done, Matt, is for us, it's about working the ground game, right? It's about point source quantification. And so, those other technologies are great to kind of help find our way, if you would. But once we're there, now what do you do? Well, now we've got to have, science behind us to give these, unequivocal, defensible, auditable, analysis of what the actual emission is. And so that's been really our focus. And so not only for the work that Well Done does for our Well Done projects, but we started in July of this year measuring and monitoring for the state of New Mexico as part of the expected IIJA funding that was coming down the path from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So we've been measuring. We're almost at 200 wells now in the state of New Mexico. We've kicked off a project in the state of Kentucky where we're measuring there for them. We're getting ready to go check out Arizona. We've been up in Appalachia, working hard in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. So we see that as not only, again, applying that science for the Well Done work, but also to help support the industry. And it's really about how do you show that return on investment. So
yeah, and I think maybe as the future grows and your technology grows, we might come to a point in our future technology to where, hey, we're plugging these wells, but we may not call them abandoned anymore. There might be a way where we can, hey, we can go back into that,
sure,
and revitalize it someday. Mm-hmm. If it's if it becomes cost effective, we can go back and utilize those wells.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion, things like whether it's storage or whether it's other applications that tend to make sense. Then absolutely, the well exists. Let's look at what's the again, just like every situation needs to be considered on its merits. It's the same thing with a well. Again, you just can't paint that with a broad brush.
Yep.
But I think the key is that we have to do something. And as an industry, there's no one more qualified to do that work, right?
Nope. We've all been down. That borehole got made by a really smart person, and we can turn it off, we can plug it, we can do whatever we want with it, but we're the best at it.
100%. And it's great to see, like we were at OU yesterday, and it's great to see projects.
Did you see the kid that drops the weight down the well during the daytime when electricity is at its highest peak?
Mm-hmm.
And then at nighttime, when it's cheaper electricity, they pull the weight back up.
Yep.
And so I don't know the application, but if you put out millions of these things across all these wells, he's generating electricity off of gravity.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed by students at OU thinking ahead.
Yeah, it's fun to see some of the progress being made in geothermal activity. So there again, it's about at the end of the day, look, if we can make it or leave it better than the way we found it. Maybe it's plugging, maybe it's repurposing, hard to say, but it's about, again, doing something and not just sitting back and waiting for the government to take action, but, let's own this as an industry and really show the world what we can do. And
and here's what I'm, thankful for what you all are doing. Somebody finally is just going out to visit each and every one of these wells.
You bet.
We haven't had that. Like you say, it's an eyesore. It's something we don't think about. Well, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and we haven't gone to visit them. So at least now, you're getting out to each one individually and going, hey, guess what? Here's 5 things we can do to turn it back on, guys.
Yeah.
So, it's getting taken care of step by step.
Engaging.
25 out of what, possibly 8 million?
Oh, well, there's quite a few. Yeah.
There's a number I was told that's a possibility that across our industry, and again, these are numbers that we've got to go to the government and go, maybe not, but somebody said 8 million wells across the nation we should go take another look at and just check on.
Well, there are certainly a lot more that we don't know about than we do. And, I'll give an example of in Pennsylvania. And, again, there's a certain number that have been documented, but there is a lot. And, find them all the time by accident. Just happen to
hunters,
be out there.
A lot of oil and gas guys are hunters, stewards of our own, land. And we walk across them and find out they're there.
Yep. So the ability to identify those, to help locate them, and sort of bring them into the universe, then, so they can be assessed and sort of make that decision of, well, where does it fit? Is it a high emitter? Has it got interface with groundwater or surface water or drinking water aquifer issues? That's really key. And so what's exciting about this is that again, thinking back to that July day in 2019 to where we're at today, this is a whole thing now, right? This is an industry unto itself hopefully we keep it within the oil and gas industry. But now, we're talking about workforce development and job creation in an area that is somewhat new. I'll give an example of our measurement and monitoring technicians that are out there in the field. This is all brand new stuff, right? And there are so many wells out there. We're going to be measuring and monitoring for a long time, and there's going to be certainly others that are going to enter into the space, which we welcome that, because in 5 of our lifetimes, 10 of our lifetimes, we would never be able to cover all of the wells that are out there. So in addition to our mission, Well Done also feels compelled that we need to empower others, right? So we need to help to train others, to empower others to get out there and join in this fight. And we call it.
You've named it properly, foundation.
Yeah.
You started you have now a solid platform and a foundation to move on from there.
Yeah. We call it co-opetition, right?
Co-opetition.
So it's about working together. And, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that yes, the more success that the Well Done Foundation sees, the bigger the target on our back becomes.
There's going to be some questions, from small operators,
Sure.
like, well, what about my well that's, producing, and somebody's going to royalty check? Like, that's, make sure those parameters don't hit me. And then the big guys, that have, you're going to have outside and inside.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Looking at you going, what are they up to? Are they pro oil and gas? Are they against? Like, no, he's just pro energy.
Well, just doing the right
efficiently thing. And doing the right thing.
Yeah, end of the day. And that was really, I think, my takeaway from that experience in northern Montana in July 25th of 2019 was like, holy smokes, this is not cool. On any level, in any universe, we should not think this is okay. And we can do better than that. And
we have our own stop work authority out at a drill site. Yeah. It's the same, principle, just
100%. And the problem is that, in this, there's plenty of, accountability to go around. But, the fact of the matter is that, sometimes, like in any industry, in any situation, you've got your tier 1 operators, you've got your class act operators, and then you've got a few of those folks that really don't give a shit, right? Excuse my language there. But
bring it on. It's the right audience.
The problem is that those are the guys that make it tough for everybody else, right? And
they're the ones that are bringing in government regulation that we didn't need.
100%. And so, at a certain level, the industry needs to be a little self-policing, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, man, that's just not cool. And that was really sort of my takeaway. That first moment when I saw what I saw, it wasn't about, oh my God, this is an environmental nightmare. For me, it was like, holy shit, if we don't fix this, the environmental group is going to be on us like ugly on an ape. And nobody better to fix it than us, right? And so how about if the industry embraces this? And it was funny to see the pushback, and you're absolutely right, is that, some of our biggest opponents are from the operating group.
Yeah.
Not so much the majors, because they understand that this is a social license, right? This is what's required to do business in a modern society.
We had a good talk on the API meeting the other day. What's in the boardrooms right now? ESG.
100%.
Why? Because we, as an industry, have investors. And we can say what we want. But they're our investors. We don't get to. We are.
We're accountable.
We're accountable. They have we think we think we're the boss, but those investors are.
100%.
And if ESG is the top of their list, well, environment is a big component of that.
Yeah, and realistically, look, it benefits everybody. Nobody wakes up in the morning and laying in bed before they get out and start their day and thinks to themselves, I want to go out and really suck today, right? I mean, seriously,
No.
I think that's not the mindset. I think everybody wants to do better and hopefully leave it better than the way that they found it, and that's really sort of what our message and what our whole program is about. And it doesn't take much. In many of these situations, like what I mentioned earlier, whether it's in northern Montana or in New Mexico or Ohio, look, it doesn't take much. Shit, I don't care. Roll a duct tape and some Visqueen. Just do something, right? And it may not be a permanent solution, but at least it's an effort. But to just not care and to just think that that's okay, I think that ship has really sailed. And
now, if you're a kid out there watching this, do not go out and look for abandoned wells. You don't have the gas monitors in the face mask.
No, not at all.
Stay away from our well sites.
Well, and so, that's another great point, because there's been a discussion that's happening right now about, empowering citizen scientists. And I heard that, and I'm like, oh my God. That scares me. Ever-living crap out of me.
We've always said, citizens, we love you. We're banking energy for you. Yeah. Stay away from the well sites.
100%. I mean, I can't tell you how many wells that we work on where we're under full air. The H2S is so high that and you don't get a second chance at that. And if you're not properly equipped, and if you don't have the right PPE, you shouldn't even get out of your truck, right? No. Stay in the truck, keep on driving. And so that for us is something. We've been also working in the various states helping to train field inspectors of kind of what to be looking for. And I am amazed, even at the state levels, the inspectors, of how unprepared they are without gas monitoring equipment, without PPE to be in this space.
They did not know the danger.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, if we have somebody an official go out to a well site and gets hurt, we're going to be in the news.
Oh yeah,
we don't want that.
Nope, not at all. So yeah, I mean, we've got to proceed safely. And there are ways to report orphaned wells or idle wells, or maybe you don't know. And we've got we get a lot of contacts through our website. We have a landowner assistance program. And what's happened in the past is that there just hasn't been anybody on the other line from the regulatory side of the house to be able to respond. And so that was we put that in to fill a need. I think with the more attention that's coming, that's going to be, hopefully, is going to, there will be other avenues for people to reach out.
You're going to have a call center where I get somebody in another country to pick up my phone.
Yeah, who knows, right?
Dial 9, dial 7, dial 2.
Well, but, even at this conference, there was a discussion about, like the call before you dig program, right?
Yeah,
so maybe, maybe there is a
idea.
National hotline and they call in to report a hole in the ground, So.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. So, big questions, how can we help?
Well,
how can anyone help? Say you're a student, a citizen, do you need volunteers? Do you guys need more people to cut checks? how can we help, get people involved in what you're doing and, just make them aware, here's how to help.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of the above. I mean, we're funded by corporate sponsorships, individual donations, car washes, bake sales, all of the above. And whether it's $5 or 500 or 500,000, all of that helps to get more work done. And so there's that opportunity. There's an opportunity to volunteer. We've got a volunteer network that we're building up that helps us to get folks introduced into the program, get them safely trained, and then get them some experience in the field. There's other work that can be done too on the regulatory side or on the political side. So, I think just telling a friend about what we do, follow us and see what we're up to. Look, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Yep.
My phone number mobile phone is actually on the website. So
it's on LinkedIn. You just call them just like that.
Yeah,
give an interview.
I encourage people to pick up the phone and call. And again, we're not that cool. We're able to field every call. It may take me a day or two to get back to you, but that's absolutely. This has to be something that personally moves people. But I'm excited for what the future holds for us, what the future holds for the industry. This opportunity to sort of own this thing now, and show that by working together we can really make a difference. And we use the tagline all the time of one well at a time. You're right, this problem is overwhelming. But if we take every well as its individual project and its individual success, then we can really have an impact.
Well, there you have it. We know that if you have an expertise or a inkling to join the cause, to go out and look at wells that we could all improve on or plug properly, then give them a shout. See if you can volunteer or donate your time, money, thoughts. I mean, there's just so many ways that we can all help each other in our industry. I'm so honored to get to do stuff like this and meet people that we get to highlight all these amazing things we're doing with our industry now, and bringing it back to a place where there was a wave of anti-oil and gas, and now I think it's going back the other way. Like, oh, we knew we need their energy, and they're really working hard to make sure they police themselves. Because oh man, there's so much. Well, you can be a regular and anytime you like here in Oklahoma City.
I appreciate it.
We would be happy to have you. God bless you. Thank you for what you do, brother.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Bye-bye.
All right.